All right, good morning. I'm back for another web chat. I kind of arbitrarily decided that season 1 is now done. And with the magic minute that I kicked off with Brian on the last one, I decided that was going to be the change between season 1 and season 2. So welcome to episode 2 of season 2. Yeah, like I said, arbitrary decision. But anyways, I've been looking forward to doing this one for a little bit. I am here today with a friend and a former client. Let me introduce you guys to Alex Van.
Hi.
There we go. Awesome. So Alex Van, like I said, a former client of mine, a friend. She has the very notable honor of having been the 2019 Steve Nash Success Story winner. And so that's kind of where some of you guys might have seen her before. She was at the award ceremony 2 years in a row. And actually, this was the claim to fame. Before they announced the winner for the 2019 year, the fire alarm went off and everyone had to leave the auditorium. And so we went outside into the little area beside the SFU Goldcorp Center for the Arts. And we did the winning presentation outside in the courtyard. So I think it is fair to say you are the only Success Story winner who has ever been announced outside, which was awesome.
So by now, I think I'm a washed out celebrity.
You know what? There's something about being a has-been, right? I'm a pretty happy has-been as far as being famous goes. So there you go. We share that. So what we were going to talk about today, I mean, obviously as a former client, we have an opportunity to talk a little bit about personal training and sort of the transformation that happened from within. Some of you guys might know a little bit about Alex's story in terms of why she started working with me. But again, I'm sort of finding that this whole web chat is, the whole series is kind of about the things you have to know to be a trainer that go beyond just the science, that go beyond the programming. And so I think Alex has a pretty unique story to tell that's going to give you guys a cool perspective. So let's just kind of get into it. I had asked you to think a little bit about, sharing sort of a shift in identity between pre-exercise and sort of where you are now. So I'm just going to turn it over to you and, share your story a little bit, kind of cue it up for us, fill some people in that don't know you or don't know us, and take it away. Let's get into our chat.
Cool. And we're just gonna skip the magic minute, I guess.
Oh my God, no. Okay, no, thank you. That's good. No, we got to do our magic minute. Damn, I almost screwed up my whole season 2. Okay, no, we're gonna start with our magic minute. I'm not even gonna edit this. I'm literally gonna leave that in. You're such a boss. Okay, are you ready for the magic minute?
Yes.
Okay. All right, 3, 2, 1, here we go. Where's the coolest place you've ever traveled?
I'd have to say Vietnam.
Nice. What is your favorite food?
Oh, you can't ask that question. Off the top of my head right now, home cooked food since we're stuck at home.
Legit, that's fair. What is the coolest pair of shoes you've ever had?
I had these high top Nikes sneakers that were pretty damn cool. They were waterproof too.
Nice. When you were a kid, what was your favorite movie?
Oh, when I was a kid, favorite movie, Matilda.
Nice. I like it. That's awesome. What would you say your ancestry is?
Chinese by blood, but from Vietnam. So Vietnamese Chinese.
Cool. There we go. What was your favorite subject in school?
Social studies.
Okay. If there was a movie made about your life, which actress would you want to play you?
Fucking Lucy Liu.
Woo-hoo! All right, mic drop. We got to end on that.
No, I think it's more Sandra Oh. She's a little bit more clumsy and funny and without meaning to be.
So like Lucy Liu is your badass mama jama ego, and then Sandra Oh is like, but that's who I really am. Still, either one would be cool. All right. I like it. Thank you for salvaging the magic minute. I appreciate that. All right. So
question again.
All right. So then what we were gonna dive into then was having this conversation around identity in relation to fitness. So Just go ahead, give us kind of like give us the frame up in terms of where we're getting started here.
Well, my story in general is basically, long story short, I was diagnosed back in 2010 with like stage 4 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And I was in the middle of university, so 21 years old, like, you know, partying a lot, and I was young, I was invincible, and then I got hit with this sickness and went through kind of 4 months of chemotherapy, and then was declared cancer free. I went back to school, everything was fine, and then about 3 or 4 months later, I had a relapse, and this time the cancer had come back, isolated to my brain. And so that was like even more of a wake-up call than the first time around. And this time came with a lot of mobility issues. So it got to the point where, so the tumor was on the right side of the brain, so the whole left side of my body was affected. I was essentially like a stroke patient. And so I lost the ability. I came to a point when I was just bedridden, and for about 4 months I lived in the hospital, and lost a lot of motor control on the left side of my body. And after we did some heavy duty chemo and radiation, things were progressing, and my body reacted really well to it. So cancer was free about in like 2011. I was declared cancer free, in remission, and then it was the long road to recovery, having to gain back all of that, movement and muscle and strength and balance and all that kind of stuff. And since, it's been like 8-9 years, and it's still recovering from that.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about identity, I feel like with severe illness, there's definitely a sense of loss or grief with it, right? Like you're not just talking about, a loss of health, a loss of quality of life or independence and autonomy. You're talking, for me, it was particularly physical ability. So you lose that kind of trust in your own physical ability and body. Yeah. So that's kind of where I came from when I started training with you.
Yeah, so there's kind of a cool parallel here, and I didn't even necessarily think about it ahead of time. But one of the things that I think a lot of us are dealing with right now with being stuck at home is maybe listen, we don't have cancer. Like, I'm not saying that, but there's like the work that you do. And, if you're someone that goes to the gym or plays a sport or is really active or likes to be outside or likes to be with friends, when that gets taken away, there's an interesting reckoning that has to happen. And I think for some people, it's tough to just be on your own or with a very small number of people and like with yourself a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not the same, but it also is a little bit, because when you said there's a sense of loss, I think we're dealing with that right now. This sense of a shift in identity is based on the fact that I think a lot of times identity comes from action. And so when you can't take action, then you're left with like, oh my God, who am I if I'm not acting, right? So you were 21, you were at school, you were involved in what? Sports, hobbies, like what types of physical things were you doing prior to having to go through this?
Oh, I think I've always been really active. Like in high school, I probably played like 4 different sports, and in university, I was playing ultimate frisbee and, just doing my own workouts and going for runs and going swimming and all that kind of stuff. I actually remember the 2 days before I got diagnosed, I went for a swim. I was literally dying. like shortness of breath, couldn't even make it to the other side of the swimming pool. And I just like thought that I was sick with the flu, right? Because I was just like so in denial about that physical ability being taken away from me, right? So yeah, that was part of my identity. I defined myself as an athlete, an active person. So you're right when you say like people define themselves different ways. Like I define myself as a social person. I like to go out and see my friends, right? And so a lot of that, when it gets taken away from you, it's the sense of loss. You just don't really know who you are, right? I was now cancer girl, you know? So yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot we could learn even from that scenario. But what I want to, I mean, your family was amazing. You had a ton of support. You have a new network now because of that experience, and all of that's really amazing. But I wanted to look at it from the perspective of, you know, okay, I've got my hair back, I've got my life back, but I still don't feel like I have me back. And the fact that when people look at you from the outside, they're like, okay, well, you're fine, but you're like, but I don't feel fine. So I remember when you came to talk to me, I think I was trying to pin it down exactly, but I think we worked together sort of end of 2015 into 2016, maybe 2017. Like we worked together for about a year, and then I went away and you kept going, and that, you know, we kept in touch. But let's say that, you know, it was at least 5 or 6 years after being diagnosed with cancer that we ended up working together. And yet you said, hey, by 2011 I was cancer free. So between like 2011 and then starting to work with me, that period of time, that seems like a really long time to not be confident in your body, to not feel like you're the athlete that you used to be. So what were some of the things that you struggled with in that time period that I guess maybe drove you to like seek some help? Like, hey, I've got to find a way to get past this weird sort of limbo period of my life. What was that like? What were some of the things that kind of stood out to you as like, no, this can't be me?
Um, this is so reminiscent of what's happening to, like right now as well too. It's like you adapt to the new normal, right? Like I had gotten to a level where I was fine with daily occupations, right? I got back to work. I went back to school, finished, got my degree, finished my program, and yeah, I was getting by fine day to day. But there was still this kind of piece that was missing. Um, and yeah, it took me like 4 or 5 years to like really stop denying it to myself that I could be performing at a higher level of fitness and I could get some of that ability back. So yeah, it was kind of a chain of events that happened that brought me into the gym, because yeah, you build up over the years this sense of like, yeah, I can't do it, that's not me anymore, right? And even like I didn't even really think about it so much, even when my OT, my occupational therapist, told me, you know, um, I don't think you should, I think you need to accept the fact that you'll never get back 100% mobility or like physical ability. That didn't even really hit me when she said it until like, you know, several years down the line where I was trying to do stuff and like was like, oh really, this is a thing, right? And so it takes you a while, I think.
So I remember you saying things when we met and as we started working together, like it was hard to get in and out of your car because your
Mm-hmm.
leg was weaker, or you would like need to put a box away on a shelf and like one hand was fine and then the other hand the box would kind of fall a little bit because the other hand wasn't strong enough, things like that. And so when we first sat down and started sort of isolating what your goals were, you were able to share sort of some of the physical reality with me that, you know, even though you were finding a way to function, there was still an awful lot in your day that reminded you of what you lost. And I think that's what kind of made me go like, oh my God, I really want to help you, because it had been long enough. It had been years since you'd been sick. And yet you were still being reminded every day when you went to try to do something with two hands and you couldn't do it the way your brain thought you were going to be able to, that was really frustrating. And then that's sort of like, it's like your body is forcing you to settle for something that your brain is like, but this isn't who I am. And so there's a war going on between the identity you have and the physical reality. I think that's something that kind of stood out for me. So when we started training, I mean, listen, we could have a science conversation about regressions and stability and blah blah blah, right? But that's never the point for me with these conversations. It's more so when you're someone who's struggling with, let's call the theme identity, when you used to be able to do stuff and you can't right now, or something's hard right now, but you have to persevere to get back to where you were. What are some of the challenges? And I don't just mean in the gym, but like in general in your life, what are some of the challenges when you begin taking that on? Like I remember at the success story thing, you said to the crowd, like you kind of got cold called because you dropped like a business card in a thing, like get a free 7-day pass. And they were like, yeah, you should come in. And then you were kind of like, what? But like, I can't go to the gym. So like, what are some of the things that people struggle with when like they don't feel like the fittest, best, healthiest versions of themselves? What do you need help from your trainer or from your friends or from your gym people, from your community? What do you need help with in order to be able to start to like take on that brave task of like getting fit again?
Hard question. I mean, I think it's breaking it down, I think, into more of a functional timeline for people. So like it takes my mind off of, oh my gosh, like I actually have to like achieve this movement. Whereas day to day, here's what we're going to do. We're going to work on this, this muscle, or we're going to work on getting this to activate. And breaking that up into pieces, and working on that. And then also like injecting certain smaller goals in there that you can achieve really fast. Because I feel like it's not just me, but we all look for instant gratification, right? Like I'm going to keep doing something if I feel like I can actually do it, right? Like it gets so frustrating and like unmotivating if I'm doing this thing like every day for like a month and I haven't seen results. So I think people are pretty results oriented.
Totally.
But then also I think it's the relationship too, right? Like if you build that rapport with your client or with somebody that you're working with, I think that's a huge motivating factor of, oh, I'm going to get up today and I'm going to go to the gym.
Yeah.
Because I want to see this person and I enjoy being around them,
Yeah.
So I think that makes it less scary because, I come in and I have somebody that says hi to me and acknowledges that I'm here, right? And that I belong. I think that's part of it is the whole feeling of I actually belong here and I don't feel out of place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you and I are having this conversation and we're talking about the past. It's something that we've been through, but I want to just draw a couple of things out there, because if you're trying to learn how to be a better trainer from the perspective of relationship building, rapport building, the soft skills, that stuff, there's a couple things that I want to draw out. So number one is how you go about building the relationship at first has nothing to do with what they're achieving in the gym as far as exercise, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not about how heavy they're squatting. It's not about how much weight they're lifting. It's not about the measurement on the scale. It's smaller than that. So like, for example, I don't remember if it happened specifically with you or not, but it happens to me enough that I feel like it's worth mentioning. When you sign up for sessions, as an example, it's not just like, okay, cool, I have 24 sessions with this trainer. No, it's like, oh, I'm going to come to the gym on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 11 a.m. for the next 12 weeks, say. Because when you talk about, I'm now taking on this really big thing, like, whoa, 3 months of training, that's really scary. But if you're like, I'm going to show up on Tuesday at 11 a.m., that makes it easier, right? So establishing a schedule, finding a way to set a dedicated time, I think is really helpful, because then it's sort of like, hey, we're going to take it one day at a time. We're going to take it one session at a time. And there's something about, hey, they're expecting me at 11 a.m. on Tuesday, that's totally different than, oh, I don't know, should I call them? Should I email them? I have these sessions. I don't know when I'm coming in. Like, we want to create that sense of you belong, because this is your time slot. And as much as that seems like a dumb little administrative detail, I've noticed that I think it makes a really big difference to creating a level of comfort and familiarity, and like, this is my spot. And then on top of that, just sort of to give you guys an example, I had some ideas about what I wanted to do with you. I had some ideas about how am I going to move you forward, but the program was always just a guideline. And so you would come in and I would check in, and how are you feeling, and how did you sleep, and how do you feel from our last workout, and I would sort of get a pulse check. And so you'd have to be able to adapt if something didn't feel right. You'd have to be able to answer some questions from last time if something from last time didn't work right. So the idea of making the experience as human as possible instead of really scientific goes a long way towards building rapport. And when you have someone who has low confidence or low resilience, or doesn't have this habit built up yet, we got to find as many small, simple things to celebrate as possible. So no joke, I remember when I asked you one day, like, hey, like, what's some of the music that you like to listen to? And you were like, oh, there's this funny song I listened to with the kids. And so I found it and we played it. Like, just having little things to connect to around the experience of training make the connection that much stronger. And then when you feel trusted, and when you feel like you can trust me, and when you feel like I'm supporting you, then it's easier to be brave and do hard things, right?
Yeah, I mean, you used to tie my shoelaces for me.
Yeah, for sure. Because
Yeah.
basically that just meant we didn't take as much time resting and letting our heart rate come down,
Oh,
right?
for you, it was just a
Yeah, tie your shoe.
functionality. For me, or sorry, a logistical thing. For me, it was like, oh man, like you actually recognize the fact that this takes me a long fucking time to do
Yeah,
this.
yeah,
Uh, Whereas a lot of people don't. It's certain, like you mentioned, those tasks that I have to be conscious of, very conscious of, and other people, it just like you don't have a left hand that doesn't work, right? So it's things like that, like having the intuition to kind of notice and observe, um and like, and even if you don't have that, like asking, right? Just being curious enough to ask someone what they're going through, or like how they're doing that day. So yeah, I I totally agree with that. Especially if you're working along sort of the rehab side of things, is the ability to modify and adapt your workout or your program, just, for that specific individual's needs. And oh, I had something to say, but I can't remember.
maybe it'll pop up. So the next thing that I wanted to address then is, like, we had a really cool relationship. We had some really cool, trainer client chemistry. We had a ton of fun when we were training. And I think that's one of the reasons why, we sort of make an effort to maintain a friendship now, is because, like, we're both really cool people. We enjoy spending.
We're just like a dream team. Pretty awesome.
See, there you go. But like, so obviously that was kind of the bedrock that allowed us to find success over the year in terms of, taking on some physical changes and in our exercise program. What changed for you beyond just being in the gym and being more successful with your workouts? What changed for you as we were working through our program? So what were some of the benefits sort of beyond SNFC? In terms of how the program helped you accomplish other things?
um yeah, I think for me, I've learned through all this that the body just comes with this like adept ability sometimes I would even call it like intuition to heal. Um, and I think fitness really kickstarted that off for me, because getting that independence back to move the way I want to move, I found that super empowering, and it's really cool to be able to take that mentality into other aspects, like work. I went through a career transition coming out of, community services, and now working in real estate. Just last year got my license, and it's like at times when I'm like, I can't do this, like I don't even know what the heck I'm doing. It was like that same feeling in the gym, was like, how am I supposed to do this? Like Logan just asked me to do this and I don't think I can. And it's just like coming back to that, I think you have this intuition or this ability to do things. It's just yourself that's like limiting you, and it's a constant reminder, right? Like we often forget that, and every time our perspective changes, it's easy to forget. So that, I think that experience is always a constant reminder for me of that. You put your own limits on yourself. So yeah, that's translated to multiple facets of my life.
Yeah,
which is
awesome.
kind of cool.
I think you're being a little bit humble too, because to go from the job you were doing, which is like you get paid this much, you get these hours, it's part-time, like whatever, to transfer from that into like you get to make a business as successful as you want to, based on your own efforts, based on your own ingenuity, based on your own like willingness to go do hard work. The fact that you went from like recreational ultimate to competitive, the fact that you not only trained with me, but then trained with someone else when I left, and then even trained with someone else. Like you, like not only have you stuck with fitness, but like you continue seeking challenges, which is way more a mental thing than a physical thing, right? Regardless of the condition of your body, whether you're super fit or super out of shape, your choice to take on a challenge is mental. Sometimes I think people who get really in shape kind of then don't know what to do, because the only thing that challenges them is now something really hard. Whereas they look back to like, I was super out of shape, so like anything challenged me, so it was kind of easy to get in shape. It didn't feel like that for you at that time, but now when you look back, you underestimate how hard it was to take any of that on. But when you look at a lot of things that you've done, a lot of it is realizing that you can. It's that mental courage, that mental faith, that mental resilience, whatever, to be able to take something on. And what you said to me before we jumped on the call was like exercising every day is something that sort of keeps you sharp, that keeps you hungry, that keeps you working, right? So if we look at a shift in identity, I think for me, that was sort of like the quintessential example, to go from like, oh, I'm sick, I can't do anything, to I want to challenge myself every day, to I can do anything I put my mind to. It doesn't really matter what your workout looks like. What matters is that you're doing something every day that challenges you, and then that keeps you fired up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
and so what would you say about, as you look at how you live your life now, COVID or not, it doesn't really matter. But as you look at sort of building on what you've learned, as you look towards what you want to do in your life, what are some of the things that are really important to you that you do? Like, what are some of the things that you do now that are important to you to do? Holy, can't talk. So like when you think about your identity now, what types of actions are part of your identity now that maybe weren't before? What have you built up now to be the new you?
Um, I would say, yeah, like physical ability and fitness is, athleticism is a huge part of who I am now. I would say, yeah, I don't, I've never looked at it as a new me. I think it's just like changed me for sure. I think for me, I take a huge value and importance to relationships, more in a different way than I did before. I think before was, you have a lot of acquaintances. I'm a very social person. I'm very extroverted, so I had a lot of acquaintances. But I think post-cancer, you value, like who's important to you, and who matters and what matters. I think so. You kind of just drop things that don't really matter as much. And I think that's with anybody who gets, when you get older, you learn to see what really matters, and you don't waste time on shit that doesn't, right? But yeah, just the importance of like time, and you don't have a lot of it. And it's, yeah, again, it's a constant reminder of that when I think back to it. It's like, should I really be so stressed out about this thing? Because really, in the long run, does it really matter? So yeah, I would say those are kind of things that stayed with me. But yeah, I wouldn't say that.
Other people too. The fact that you share your story even reminds those of us who haven't had that type of experience that experience is nonetheless a reality. And so the way
and I mean, everybody goes through this adversity. Like, everybody goes through shit, and it's I know some people get worse shit than others, but I mean, everybody does it, right? So it's yeah, I think everyone learns that lesson
at some time or another, right? Like you can only be held back by nonsense for so long before you kind of get a knock upside the head, and for you maybe a little bit more literally than others. So what I want to sort of wrap up with, what I want to finish with is, I assume the audience that I kind of created this series for was people that love fitness and are maybe thinking about becoming trainers, or people that are currently, pursuing getting their certification, or even trainers that are new in the industry, right? That was sort of the audience for this. So what I want you to share, if you can, is what do you think those people need to know about helping someone get started on a fitness journey, even if they're kind of demoralized by where they're starting from? So like, you were an athlete, you lost a lot of physical ability, you were able to get a lot of it back, but it was hard to start because you didn't like where you were starting from. So if I'm a new trainer and I want to help this person lose weight, but they just hate where they're starting from so much that they almost use that as an excuse to not start. Like, the thing we hear all the time is like, let me get in shape a little bit on my own first, and then I'll work with you. Like, that makes zero sense to me at all. So when your roadblock is something like that, what do you think trainers need to know about what that feels like? Or what do you think they should be able to say? Or what do you think they could offer? Or how do they need to empathize with someone who's stuck in that kind of a place?
Ooh, that's a hard question because it's very individual. But I would say being genuine, like, authenticity plays a huge role in that relationship. I can sense if you're just there because you're a gym rat, right? And so I think starting off from a place where you're authentic and you're real, and then, like I said before, like asking people what they need, right? Or being curious and observing kind of a person's body language or behavior, and kind of gauging where they're at in terms of self-confidence and ability. That goes a long way. And just being gentle with the person, I think. If they want to work out on their own, before getting to a place where they feel comfortable being around other people in the gym, follow up with them and give them suggestions and recommendations of what they can do on their own, just to get to a base level where they feel comfortable, because it wouldn't work otherwise, right? I feel like the gym is a very harsh environment often when you don't have self-confidence, or you don't like your self-image is not the greatest or the most positive. I think the gym environment amplifies that even more, because you're constantly comparing yourself to other people. So yeah, just be gentle with the person, follow up with them, and be that pillar of support, however they need it, right?
I love it. So if I was going to bullet point out of that, what I got was be authentic, be real, be yourself, be genuine. For myself, I would call that like probably like my number one philosophy about training, but also about life. Like whatever you do it as your most real self. Because if you get into stuff that you have to be someone you're not in order to do, you can't keep it up. It's not going to be your best work. Right. So I love that, because if by helping someone who is struggling or feeling really frustrated, all you have to do is be yourself. You don't have to know what they're going through. You don't have to have shared their experience. All you have to do is just show up as yourself. So I like that a lot. You said also be curious. So ask a lot of questions. I mean, that goes for any client really, but maybe even more so someone that's feeling, unsure and insecure. And then when you said be gentle, I think that's what we want to do. We don't want to make someone uncomfortable. But what I would even say is, yeah, everybody's different. Some people, they show up, there's screw your courage to the sticking post kind of thing. And all they want is somebody who shows them how to do it, how to be there. Right. And so you can actually do a lot of good things for someone, but that are simple. Right. So like, keep it simple, stupid. You can be in a gym space and do very simple things, and that can be effective.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So being gentle is also sometimes like, hey, trainer, remember, there's very simple things that make you better at being a human machine. It doesn't have to be crazy and complicated. So finding those things, right? Like most trainers don't spend a lot of time teaching their clients how to use the cardio machines properly. They don't spend a lot of time teaching their clients how the circuit machines work, but those can be areas that feel safe to be in if you're given permission, if you're told that it's okay to do that.
Yeah, being creative too, right, around your programming. Like there's things that we did that were non-kosher to what happens in a gym, right? Like it's okay to do that with somebody that can't actually use any of the equipment.
Yep.
Right? Or like it's okay to take them into more of a private area, like private corner of the gym, if they don't feel like they don't want anyone to watch what they're doing, It's like fine. That's what I really liked about other therapists that I worked with, is like you're taught all these movements, these exercises to do for this specific condition or to strengthen this specific muscle, but dude, you can change it. Like you can adapt it and modify it. So yeah, being creative around that aspect.
Yeah. And, again, from the programming perspective, like I tried a lot of the stuff that I was going to have you do on my own before you got there. So like, I forget the days we trained, but if you trained on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I was often doing your workout on Mondays and Wednesdays to try it out. And I would make myself not use my left hand. How am I going to do this exercise if I can't use my left hand? Can I put the ankle cuff that people do booty kickbacks with, can I put that around my wrist? Or if I use a band instead of a dumbbell, does that give me the work that I want? If I apply manual resistance to this exercise instead of needing to, have a handle of the machine in my hand, does that work? So where that comes from, I would suggest, is just caring about the person that you're working with. So because we had a great connection, because I was interested and curious and wanted to find a way to help you, it mattered to me that you had a good experience when you were in the gym. And so I practiced stuff. I tried things, and I was willing to ask you questions. How does that feel? And if it didn't feel good, toss it out the window, try something different. So, from the trainer perspective, I don't know that 100% of the time we spent together was like super efficient and like really dialed in, case study worthy type training, but it didn't have to be in order for you to feel like you were making progress. And so adjusting my own expectations was a part of giving you what you needed. And I only knew how to do that because I was asking questions, you were brave enough to answer them, and we figured shit out together in large part. But then giving you some authority to make headway in your program, I saw that help you gain confidence. Your ability to say something and interject and go, what about this? Or I don't know, that two-way communication became a really important part of just, helping you find some independence in the long run. So
yeah, and it's easier just to talk through it and to actually go through the exercises together too. Yeah. Because I often don't know what I can't do and what I can do and what I need. Often it's like, that's why you have those consultations with clients, right? It's like, I don't know what I need. Can you tell me?
Well, I learned a lot from working with you that, I've been a trainer for a long time, and you still challenged me, and it made it really interesting to work with you, and it made me really excited to be able to create some progress. On top of the fact that you were hilarious and you had a great taste in music, and your family is awesome. So as I got to know them and learn a little bit more about you, it was just like a super highlight of my day or my week, just being able to train the Van family. And, it's carried on to like, I've been to your house now to learn how to make like proper Vietnamese pho, which is so good. I'm super jealous. When you said home cooking, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so jealous. Yeah.
Yeah. But they're like YouTubing like Hong Kong recipes, and they're just having a ball.
I love it. That's awesome.
Learning anything, so yeah.
Well, thank you so much for jumping on with me, and it's been awesome to reconnect and sharing what you did. I think it's important for people to know the rules and to know, the types of information that we cover in a certification, right? You've got to know the rules before you can break them. But at the same time, I think the more we're able to learn sort of human stories around fitness and exercise and training and whatever, I think the more helpful that is. So I've always admired you for, being so open and being so, like just being able to share what you've been through and like teach some really cool lessons about it. So I appreciate that. I hope the people watching have picked something up. Also, you should have a client as fun as Alex at some point. Everybody deserves that when you love your job. So appreciate you as a friend and as a success story for sure. And super proud to see all the stuff that you're doing, crushing your life. So, if I was able to have a tiny little part in, getting the gears turning, I consider it to be a really big honor to have been a part of that. So
likewise, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, awesome. All right. Well, say hi to your family from me. Eat some awesome food from me, and keep doing all the great things you're doing. When we're allowed to, travel again and see people and be back in public places, you can take me to a new Asian themed restaurant I've never been to before, and we can catch up in person.
Awesome. Yeah, awesome. Good luck to all you trainers out there who are learning shit and kicking ass. So yeah, best of luck.
Dig it.